Yo, dudes, what's going on with y'all? First off, I would like to apologize if I sound slightly weird. I'm getting over a cold, but I'm feeling okay, so we're gonna go ahead and record this. This week, I decided I was through reading crap. I loved Dark Harvest, so we're reading Will Jordan's Ryan Drake series. Please make me happy. I need this.
Come with me if you want to live.
Spoilers abound, so skip to me final thoughts if y'all want to avoid plot details. So, our opening covers Ryan Drake holding a bullet wound in his side in Iraq, lamenting over his impending death and reflecting on his life, seemingly content with the knowledge that his last act was at least a decent one. This is fantastic. It's all we need for a good setting, a hook, an introduction to our main character, and it gives us a reason to attach to them. Now, this is how you start off an introduction.
Yeah!
This is only let down a little because as this part of the book is a series, we know that Drake doesn't actually die here. We jump around a bit through different points of view in the Iraq operations, which I've never been a fan of flipping perspective, but it works here and it's important to understand how so many different people view things that are going on. Also, Will has a high talent for painting a character portrait. Like, there really is a skill to accurately relaying what somebody looks like in the reader's head, and he is very good at it. It's good. It's moist, despite the book taking place in a mostly scalding hot desert. We jump into a control room responsible for controlling 20 unmanned drones in Iraq, but they suddenly lose sight and control of one of these drones for a few moments, only to see that once the view comes back, it has demolished a building and killed several civilians. A moment of horror and silence grips the soldiers watching this, because aside from the direct horror of several innocent dead, this carries about a dozen really bad implications for the future. And they are soldiers who have never been trained how to handle this, but at the same point, they must do something. This is great. I can actually picture this being the response of a shocked and panicked military unit, not screaming and losing their heads or crying, but pure shock and awe and horror. 10 out of 10.
Oh, who the fuck are you? I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
We cut over to Ryan Drake, a British man retired from the SAS who is now a specialist with the CIA and retrieves both people who want to be very much rescued and not so very much rescued. I have no idea how exactly a British soldier ends up becoming part of the CIA, and it's a bit weird. It's not something that takes away from the book per se, it's just a little moment of, wait, what now? From here, we flip back and forth between perspectives, which, as I said, I've never much liked, but I get why people do it. We pick up with a woman who is prisoner 62 in an extremely harsh Russian prison, and we learn a little bit of the life she's had to deal with while in there. She's introduced to us as someone who has an extremely strong will, but refuses to give up despite seeing no clear answer to her problems. But she, well, picture pretty much everything a sadistic Russian prison guard might do if there was absolutely no consequences to any of his actions, and that. She goes through that. Anyhow, Drake is hired to track her down because her old student was the one who hijacked the drone, and they want her to track him down and stop him from doing the terrorisms. So, we are briefly introduced to a number of specialists Drake wants to work with to pull the job off, and while none of them are one-dimensional, I do wish we got to spend a little more time with them as a group, because it's hard to remember them before we jump right into the action. They go over and do the rescue, which goes shockingly well. Well, I say that. 2 people get shot, and Anya, the prisoner, stabs a dude who raped her, but like, no one dies or suffers lasting injury. Well, no one on our side. The rescue goes rescue, how about that? From there, we deal with a few things, primarily Anya's PTSD, and it's haunting and harrowing, as it should be. There's a lot of weight and depth given to her struggles and the pain due to her torment. It's rare to see a novel give real weight and gravity to something that would cause severe trauma, but this one really does. Granted, I'm not a psychologist, but she doesn't go through this and pop out clean on the other side ready to go. She nearly kills one of the other team members, and after she's turned over to the CIA, she refuses to talk to anybody except Drake because she trusts him and respects him as a military man who rescued her. She's also shown to be very clerical and perceptive, often saying or doing things purely to see what kind of reaction she might get from somebody. So as Drake is helping move her because she won't talk to anybody else, he gets a phone call from the terrorist who kidnapped his sister and demands that Drake do what he says or she dies. I have no clue how terrorist knows who Drake is or how he's involved with the CIA, but apparently they have some of the worst cybersecurity ever if this student can just go in and grab whatever he wants, no biggie.
Oh, come on, you bitch! You can't silence the law! I'm the sassiest bitch! The law can suck my dick!
From there, we bounce back and forth between the two fractions, Drake stealing Anya away, and the CIA trying to track him down because he did a betray. There's a weird moment where Drake expects the terrorist to demand Anya's release, but he doesn't. Then he basically just gets stuck playing keep away for a reason I missed, which is a shame, as it's what drives the rest of this part of the book. Weirdly, Anya understands that Drake is abducting her and just decides to roll with it and help him. I would say this is stupid, except that she really is weird and has no idea how to react. She trusts only one dude, and he's the one who's taking her. And it's not like she really has anyone or anything else to do anyway. So it's not really contradictory, it's just weird. So from there, we deal with Drake and Anya's escape, and again, Anya has to deal with her flash of PTSD, resulting in her damn near killing 2 people at a gas station, and a freakout at a public mall because there's way too much input for her to handle. As a side note, while the 2 men at the gas station weren't deserving of a near death for their actions, there was at least a lot more against them than, say, the Don that Captain Marvel assaults.
Here's a proposition for you. You're gonna give me your jacket, your helmet, and your motorcycle, and in return, I'm gonna let you keep your hand.
Like, there's a lot of direct implication of rapey actions. Then comes a moment of 3 quick contrivances, and I'm not thrilled with any of them. So, Drake and Anya decide to leave the country with some help from an old friend of Anya's, and she grabs a passport from a go bag that she had stashed away from her old work. Okay, that's fine. That was burp. However, Drake doesn't have one, and so they have to go find a dude at the airport who looks enough like him to steal his passport, which works almost perfectly. Like, there's some explanation of how he manages to play it off by being a bumbling foreigner, and that's not implausible, but it's definitely noticeable. Like, if there was even a bit in the opening about Drake having a face that almost everyone recognizes, it would have been better. Like, I was a cashier for a time, and most days I heard that I looked like somebody a customer would happen to know. Anyhow, the passport thing works. Okay. The team originally expects Drake to head to a major city and get lost in it, except that one of them thinks he might head south, and that dude just so happens to be right, and just so happens to hit the exact hotel they were staying at. That's not impossible, but yeah, pretty implausible. Then, they're too late to stop Drake from just embarking, and due to a computer error, he's not detained when he's landed. Okay. However, while driving down the road, Drake's tire suddenly gets a flat because there's a ton of debris on the road, and out of everything I just listed, a sudden flat tire is the most believable. It's a shame I have to slam this book for this, because I was riding high up until this sudden bit of turbulence, but the tire changing thing is used for a good bit of character, and we learn about Anya's backstory, and it's D&D PC levels of tragic, but it does inform as to why she is the way she is, even like outside of the years of torment in the Russian prison. So she and Drake keep moving towards an informant, and Drake eventually reveals that he had a fuck-up moment in the military when he ended up accidentally killing a little girl that was being used as a shield by a suicide bomber. He's even congratulated by the higher-ups when he brings the bomber down. He's unable to make peace with this and hates himself for it, which tracks on all ends for me. Even people who are forced to kill enemy combatants often find it impossible to readjust to civilian life, and that's if you didn't have to kill a child. What is weird is that Drake and Anya have a fuck session after this, and it's not totally nonsensical, despite my mocking it. Like, there's something of an implication that they're both broken soldiers who want to have each other because they understand one another and the pain that each other bears. So while that kinda works, it doesn't make the sex following the child killing story any easier to swallow, and it really isn't needed. Dealing with it in another way would have been more believable, and it doesn't have to be sex. Again, I'm not stuck up on it, it just feels like a very weird response. Anyhow, they run into the military informant they were supposed to find, and he reveals that the CIA agreed to trade nuclear information and weapons to the Iraqis. They did this so that when the USA invaded, there would be justifications for the WMD claims that the government gave us as a reason for the invasion. This is a moment that not only is very harrowing, but also completely believable to me. Like, I won't get into the huge history of it, but the CIA has a long rap sheet of incredibly not okay stuff. So this storyline isn't only dramatic in a story sense, but one that also would not shock me if it turned out to be at least somewhat true. Not that I'm suggesting it is, in case my FBI agent is listening. Anyhow, there's a small series of battles that go down, and the leader of the division of the CIA is trying to cover up his shit while Drake's ex-war buddy is trying to help rescue him. Anya wants to enact her revenge, and Drake wants to save his sister. So we have about 20 things going on at once, but it's all in the same place, so it feels very well managed. They manage to kill Anya's old student, save Drake's sister, and Anya attempts to go fully rogue. As Drake tries to follow her, she shoots him in the gut, so he can't. So my feeling on Anya especially get weird here because there is a lot of the "look how amazing she is" going on around her, but it's not to the level of a Mary Sue, because her whole upbringing and much of her adult life is training. She's certainly not liked by everybody, and she's not something that somebody would aspire to be. In fact, when we get some insight into her life, she seems pretty miserable and puts on the veneer of being a soldier so she can handle all the shit that got thrown at her. Honestly, I think there's just a bit of the oversaturation of the strong female character trope lately that puts a bad taste in my mouth where Anya is concerned, but it's worth mentioning that she probably would have been better just to give her a touch of weakness in battle. I think that Jordan tries this in her final fight, but she ends up winning it anyway, so it really doesn't feel like that. Still, this is my major complaint with the book, and that at the end of Act 2 it can be a bit draggy. Other than that and Anya's overly capable nature, I actually liked a lot of the book, so I guess take me as a praiser by exception in that what I don't mention is pretty good. Good characterization, decent plot, hateable villains, and good intrigue, and so forth and so on. My personal score is 8.5 out of 10. It's pretty good. I don't like it as much as Dark Harvest, but it's still good. And I do want to know what happens next, so I don't really know what more you can ask from a sequel setup novel. Let's go ahead and take a look at that bingo card. Well, we dotted a fair chunk around, but never actually hit bingo. Well done, Will, you're batting a solid 2 for 2. Anyhow, that's all for this time, so if you have something else you want me to review, go ahead and leave a comment down below, let me know. If you want to see what we get into next time, go ahead and subscribe. Until then, drink plenty of water, tell your parents that you love them, and stroke your mustache at night. Wow.